It would be hard to imagine Milan not being affected by the wide orbit of the Lords of Livingston Manor. In 1686, Robert Livingston was granted a 160,000-acre patent just to our north. In 1710, he sold 6,000 acres to the English crown so they could resettle several thousand Protestant German Palatine immigrants who had been displaced by war. But their experiment in producing pine tar for the British Navy collapsed quickly, and by 1712 these German immigrants were looking to relocate again. By 1760, it would be that First Lord's grandson, Robert Livingston, third Lord of the Manor, who would sell the first piece of land in what we now call Milan, and he would sell it to a German Palatine immigrant. As this 1760 deed shows, the younger Robert and his wife sold 911 acres to Johannes Rau, Jr., acres which include the area around today's Rau Road. The transaction is notable because it was a complete and free transfer of ownership, rather than a leasehold, which was unfortunately all too common in the area. Livingston had an interest in the wide patch of land that ran from what is now Red Hook across to the Connecticut border, called the Little Nine Partners Patent. These particular 911 acres were known as Lot 22. With beautiful knolls noted in the deed, the land was centrally located such that it would be traversed by the Salisbury Turnpike. The Rau family's impact in Lot 22 is visible today. Johannes Rau's 1766 stone house is no longer standing, but the family cemetery from the same time is. Johannes' son Mark would build a second family house around 1819. The Rau family would fund the building of the 1838 church and parsonage that stand today, a son becoming a deacon. The family was instrumental in founding the Methodist Church locally. There was more history to be made in lot number 22 with the building of the town hall, but for that we need to move to the next century. Irene Kilmer was a sixth-generation descendant of another Palatine immigrant, George Kilmer. It was 1910 when the unmarried and childless heir to the Wilcox silver manufacturing business, Frederick Peck Wilcox, started piecing together a 600-acre farm in Milan on land neighboring the Kilmers, south of Lafayetteville. The two married in 1919, and their son, Frederick Peck Wilcox Jr., was born in 1927. Junior, as he was called, was a popular kid around Lafayetteville, attending the one-room schoolhouse. He served in the Navy and loved to pilot his private plane. Irene Kilmer Wilcox lost her husband in 1942, and then 8 years later, in 1950, her son was killed flying his plane during a routine run between their farm and Poughkeepsie. Mrs. Wilcox's response over the subsequent decades was one of enormous generosity. As a gift to the residents of Dutchess County, she oversaw the transition of the family's 600-acre farm into Dutchess County's Wilcox Park. The hand of Frederick Wilcox Sr.'s early interest in forestry is easily seen in the 154 acres of mature trees that cover a quarter of the park. As a gift to her fellow parishioners, Irene Kilmer Wilcox paid for the restoration of the Rau Church, including the building of a basement which has been central to its preservation. She paid for the renovation of the parsonage and left the church an endowment. As a gift to her fellow town residents, she gave the gift of the town hall, which opened in 1966. Paying for and overseeing its design and construction very personally, she ensured it aligned visually to the Rau Church and parsonage just across the road. And she left the town a sizable endowment that remains to this day. Born of a lord in the 18th century, this little lot reflects the generosity and grace of the Rau and Kilmer Wilcox families across 2 centuries. To learn how you can be part of history, please visit the Milan Bicentennial website or email us. Thank you.